Okay, so when you're looking at your patients as a whole, one locomotor chain, you mustn't forget the feet. That's really important. So particularly if you're looking at spines, this is really the sort of, if you like, the first link in the chain. So some of the most important areas, there's several important areas on feet, but you mustn't forget to check certainly through the big toe, the second toe, and the different arches in the foot, which we can go through again in greater detail on another video. But a couple of things I wanted to point out was the importance certainly of the big toe and the motion through the big toe. If the big toe becomes restricted in its movement, patients will tend to walk more on the outside of the foot, which can then throw off the mortise joint up into the knee and then further up through the chain. So make sure you check the feet in all of your patients. Sometimes actually working on the feet for 2 or 3 visits and then coming up into the spine is often worth it. So you must know your anatomy, you've got to know what the joints do. They're very complex joints. So the big toe itself, we've got a hinge joint, we've got ellipsoid joints, we've got plane joints. So as we come down, these little plane movements are really what you want to follow. Bearing in mind though, there's a lot of what's called joint play in the feet, meaning that these extra accessory motions are what you're looking for. Patients can often only scrunch the feet up and move the ankle, whereas what you're looking for is the joint play, which gives you that lovely spring. Just have a look here, you can see this second metatarsal set back slightly between the medial and lateral cuneiform. This gives the foot a little bit more stability on toeing off. So when we're looking at this, you're looking really at the joint play in the foot. So although this is an ellipsoid joint, this knuckle joint, meaning you've got flexion and extension and some and abduction, you've really got a lot more than that. So you are testing the passive range of motion, flexion, extension, but ab and adduction, but also elements of rotation and elements of long axis traction. When you add all those up together, you get movement. So when you're walking, it allows this lovely toe off. If you get restricted here, as I say, you can start to put more pressure on the outside of the foot. So make sure you check that. Often the restriction here can lead to bunions and all sorts of issues with hallux valgus, where it starts poking over the other side and we start getting the tension through the ligaments and the muscles on this side. So what I tend to do is we tend to apply pressure here, test the movement, traction, test the flexion and extension, the rotation, looking for resistance. And if you find the resistance, this isn't too bad, then you'll make your adjustment into the resistance. Okay, doesn't matter that the books just say it's a flexion, extension and ab and adduction joint. You'll often have a little bit of, as I say, joint play, so you want to adjust into that resistance. Often the long axis traction is very useful. So as you come in, you put your thumb over applied traction, holding back with this side. We can then come in, apply a little bit of traction, compression, and then if it needs it, just an impulse, and the impulse is this way. And often you will get an audible if it needs to release. If we follow that down into the cuneiform bones, here's the medial cuneiform where it meets the first metatarsal. So we've got a plane joint here and plane joint here. So we often get restriction at this level. So we can test that, and if we come up against restriction in motion, we can adjust it. So in order to do that, we'll bend the knee up and we'll let the knee come in. Okay, now what we're looking to do now is balance the foot on the heel. So I've got a slight twist there. Okay, so we shake hands with the foot. So what we're doing is we're coming in and we're placing our thumb just on top of the base of that first metatarsal, and then we're applying some pressure over the top. There is a little bit of traction, there's a little bit of compression, and then once the slack is taken up, the thrust is straight down. So I'll let the knee roll in, a little bit of pressure, straight down. You get a nice audible release. Always make sure you retest to see whether what you've done has actually made a difference.